on our channel, we focus on the things that you can do to keep yourself healthy and well all the time. But let's be honest, when we're on vacation, we want to enjoy ourselves. And even for those of us that consider ourselves to be very healthy and work out a lot and make those smart choices, we also want to do things that we enjoy and have those occasional cheat days. So certainly when you're on vacation, and particularly when you're going to places like here in Las Vegas that has a lot of food options, and I do mean plenty, you're going to want to enjoy yourself. But it's important to keep in mind that when you have certain health conditions like diabetes or cardiac conditions that cause you to retain weight or water, or certain things that would otherwise cause you to have to be concerned about the things you eat, you also want to find that bliss point of enjoying yourself with also being able to maintain certain healthy routines. One of the easiest ways to do that is to make sure that anytime you're commuting, when you're flying or if you're going to be driving to your destination, that you have some healthy snacks from home preferably that you're going to be able to eat. Not only is it going to be good from a wellness standpoint with your health, but also honestly, if you've been to Vegas, you know things are a bit on the expensive side. It also is going to be healthy for your pocket because you're not going to be spending as much money looking to scramble and buy things at either the airport or your destination. So let's take a look at some of the healthy options that we can look at while we're traveling. One of the most important things that we can make sure that we do leading up to our trip is the snacks that we have while we're traveling. Many of us are so preoccupied when we're trying to make sure that we can get to our trips, make it to the airport in time, check in, get everything done, and make it to our airplane that we often won't plan ahead and think about what we're going to do while we're sitting for however many hours it is on an airplane feeling hungry. And in fact, in many cases, sometimes that hunger starts from right there when you're on the gate waiting for your flight to depart. So one of the things I always try to do is to look at the snacks that I would normally eat at home and ensure that I bring appropriately sized packages. Again, remembering you can't bring liquids and things to the airport, we can go ahead and make sure though that we have healthy snacks as an option. So one of my go-to favorites are little bites like these. These have things like date paste in them, nuts. Sometimes you can have oats and stuff as part of some of these little snack bites that you have. You can either buy them from companies like what I do at the supermarket, or there's recipes available where you can control the ingredients in them, and you can also put things like oats or certain types of nuts or other things based upon your allergies or health concerns. We're going to be linking a video to a recipe that I'm going to be working on for some of these types of bites at home. So you can find alternatives at the supermarket, or you can make them ahead and just bring them in a little package with you, throw them into one of your carry-on bags and have a healthy snack. Another thing that I like to do are nuts. So I'm a huge fan of pistachios. I always love to eat them. You want to be mindful if you have any health conditions though, if you're going to eat certain types of snacks, to make sure that it's consistent with what you need. Most nuts and legumes are going to be part of a well-balanced and healthy diet. So think about the sorts of nuts, whether it's walnuts, pistachios, in my case, cashews, other types of things that you might be a fan of, and try to bring them. Not only is it going to be healthy for you, but also when you buy a lot of these snacks at the airport and you're sitting there waiting at your gate and you're getting kind of bored and you're boredom eating, they can hit you with some pretty expensive costs. On a bag this size might be 3 to 4 times the cost of what you would normally pay for it at your local drugstore or supermarket, buying it there and bringing it with you, as opposed to bringing it from one of those little areas at your gate. Another thing that you might be looking at is some healthy snacks to be able to chew on if you like to eat chips. Be careful about eating potato chips in general. They tend to be high in fat and carbohydrates. Certain alternatives, you still want to keep your carbohydrate and sodium content in mind if you have hypercholesterolemia, high blood pressure, diabetes. But choosing some of these thin baked chips as opposed to things that are fried or in the normal size are going to be some of those small trade-offs you make that are healthier alternatives. Another thing that people tend to do is they like to have sweets. Anytime we are nervous about flying, again, it's after the pandemic period right now. A lot more of us are traveling in these last few months than we have in the last couple of years since the pandemic started. Many people turn to sugar and other forms of carbohydrates to try and comfort themselves. I, as much as anyone that knows me knows, I love candy. I don't generally advocate for candy as one of those things that you take, But I know realistically, I'm guilty of this. A lot of us are. Anytime we're traveling or just in general, when you're going to have a lot of time on your hands, candy is unfortunately one of those things that makes its way into our diets. This can be in the form of things like little gummies, like what we can purchase at the supermarket, or other types of candy. In addition to the sugar, things like preservatives and the dyes in particular are a really big concern. I know from my pod, I've had to become very concerned and by extension mindful of dyes and certain other things that are processed in foods because of my kids and their diet and adjustments that I've had to make there. So one of the things that you can take a look at if you absolutely cannot rule sugar and candy out of your routine, especially when you're traveling, is to look for alternatives. So I've turned to things like this that are plant-based. Not only is it a gelatin product that doesn't use animal-based gelatins, for anyone that might be sensitive to that and want to be careful to kind of phase out any animal products from their diet, it also uses different sources of the dyes. So as opposed to having things that are a bit more chemical in nature, again, keeping in mind for any dietitians out there that might be watching this who are absolutely right, sources of sugar and processed things in general are always going to be a concern. If you're trying to make gradual steps and can't just kind of outright remove these things from your diet, trying to step back and doing things that are more plant-based, have dyes that might be from plant sources or certain types of safe to consume, algae-based sources, things like that might be a good alternative. You still want to make sure though that you're mindful of the serving size that you're using anytime you're going to be consuming these things. If you're on a, international flight or even just flying to somewhere in the country in the United States that's far from where you live, it's very easy over the course of a couple of hours on a plane to go through an entire bag of candy when your intention was really that you think you're only going to eat maybe 2 or 3. So these are some quick travel tips. We're going to have a lot more for you, but thanks for tuning in.